You're listening to Beaufort County's House of Cards on the Big Patriot Radio Network.
Introducing to you.
You're on House of Cards, live on Facebook and YouTube.
It's going down now.
Locked and loaded with the truth.
And good evening, everybody. Once again, this is Beaufort County's House of Cards. I'm Mike Covert, your host. Glad to have you here with us. Welcome, one and all, no matter where you are. Whether it be live on bigpatriotradio.com. We have several listeners over there. There's been some server problems, I understand, with the Live 365. So I'm watching that feed to make sure we don't lose anything. Also, Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. Glad to have everybody here. You can also catch this at your leisure on YouTube. If you click on the live, that's where everything is stored. You can go back and watch any show you'd like. You can also go to the Beaufort House of Cards Facebook page and just search for them. The live shows are all on there as well. We want to hear from you tonight. Be sure to chime in on your chat bar. No fancy lights tonight. What do you think about that? You like the lights or no lights? We redid the set back here. Kind of a little different thing going on. Tell us what you think about it. And don't forget, bigpatriotradio.com is your source for independent news, blues, country pop, and classic rock. That's bigpatriotradio.com. All week long, we have podcasts. We have a new one going to be coming on soon. But Monday, we have New America Movement with David and Jordan Cox. Two shows on Tuesday with Corey Allen and the Overton Report. And I have some interesting numbers about that here in just a little bit. Thursday night is the House of Cards. Instead of a tape delay, now, obviously, for those of you on there, it's obviously live. So we are live on Big Patriot Radio all over the world right now. Sunday, we have at 7 o'clock the Culture Crossroads with television star, as I call him, Andrew Southwick, and then Frank Friedenauer with the Freedom Hour is at 8 right after that show. So we're anticipating maybe this week, maybe if she's ready, we'll get declassified on. Got to pick a date for her. Don't forget, I'm going to put this back up here. It's usually scrolling. I don't know what happened. We'll put it back up there. We'd love to have some, if you want to join us on Patreon, be a part of the family. $5 a month, $10 a month, whatever it is, a one-time contribution. That helps keep independent journalism and media alive because it's here that you'll hear the truth, whether it's this show or Corey Allen's show or the David and Jordan Cox or any of the shows. This is where you hear the truth. And it's the truth for you to decide and do with what you want, as opposed to mainstream media where they're going to feed you what they want to feed you. And you're to dissect it as they say. And that's Patreon. Don't forget, also last week's #1 song on Big Patriot Radio. Man, what a classic. The Great Gig in the Sky by Pink Floyd was the #1 hit. And the #1 listening city, all alone in the top spot last week, was Lexington, South Carolina. Now, I do want to mention, I had just said something about this, that this week's Corey Allen Overton Report show right here on BigPatriotRadio.com, Tuesdays at 7, was the biggest it's ever been. And we do 2 shows. One is at 7 and then a encore at 8 o'clock. Do that for him as well as David and Jordan Cox, because those 2 shows have such big numbers. We have to, it's just something we do. 2 shows for Corey Allen combined, both shows, 7 and 8 o'clock show, had over 563 people tuning in. That is remarkable for a podcast, independent podcast, and even more so for a only 1-year-old radio station. I mean, give me a break. That's unbelievable. So congratulations, Corey. You deserve it. Tonight's show, we have coming up at the bottom of the hour, candidate for the city of Beaufort mayor job. Phil Cromer is going to be in at, like I said, the bottom of the hour. I see he's just checked into the green room backstage. So he'll get himself all suited up. We've got drinks and cookies and all kinds of, confections for Christmas back there in the green room. And we will be bringing him on at about 7:30. A couple of things different for tonight. Not that there's not a whole lot of news around here, but there's a whole lot of news around here that we're still working on and it's being developed. But I wanted to bring to you a couple things that was on my mind as I heard them happen and dug into them for myself. Venezuela. You haven't heard about Venezuela a whole lot, but as we speak, Venezuela, under the leadership of dictator communist Nicolas Maduro, is fixing to annex via invasion the country of Guyana. Now, he's not going to annex the whole country. There is some coastal areas and a portion that is next door to Venezuela, along with oil grounds off the coast before you get to international waters. Maduro believes that is Venezuelan property, and he's going to annex it. The U.S. Embassy in Guyana, in Georgetown, released a statement saying that they didn't address this per se, but you've got to read between the lines. The U.S. Embassy announced that the State Department and the Department of Defense has decided on practice missions. And from what we see, it is they're coming out of Louisiana and Alabama and Oklahoma. That tells me these are bombers. These are fighter jets. Doing practice missions over Guyana over the next undetermined amount of time. Now, what's about to happen with that? I'm not really sure. I think you can deduce from yourself what's going on. It must be pretty serious because the country of Brazil has sent some of its troops to its border with Venezuela. You never hear about Brazil being, a tough guy, but they are. Something is about to happen. For the U.S. State Department and the Department of Defense to make those kind of practice missions, quote unquote practice missions, they know something is about to happen. Nicolas Maduro. In case you're new to this, at one point in time, not that long ago, Venezuela was that was the Riviera of Central America, South America, like Monaco. That was a destination. Venezuela They were like sleeping in money. They had so much money. Oil. I mean, that's what we spent a ton of money. The economy crashed. The government crashed. Everything collapsed. It went from a prosperous nation to one of the poorest nations there is, except for Nicolas Maduro, who lives the lavish lifestyle. Now, a good friend of the show, Nancy, I'll just call her Nancy. She's from Venezuela. I've heard some stories about her family, seen some documentaries about it. It's really sad that what's going on in Venezuela. And I feel for her as, someone from Venezuela that has family in Venezuela that has to watch this. There's Nancy. Maduro was Chavez's private driver. I'm not shocked. He learned from the best of the worst, right? But when it comes to Nancy, I mean, I can talk to you because you're on here. My heart goes out. My wife's heart goes out to you because you're going to be seeing what's going on, and something is going to happen. So keep your eyes and ears peeled for what's going on in Venezuela. Also in the news, the UN Security Council today, I believe it is, the Secretary General, for the first time in his term, which started in 2017, this is Secretary, I believe you pronounce his last name, Guterres. He invoked Article 99. That happened today up in New York. Now, what is Article 99? This is I don't know how many times this has been used in the past. I venture to say not many. But Article 99 allows the head of the UN, the Secretary General, to raise to the Security Council's attention any, and I quote, any issue that may aggravate existing threats to the maintenance of international peace and security. This is a special power. First time he's used it. Why is that? Well, if you look at what's going on with the United Nations, as of late, the rhetoric coming out of the United Nations against Israel, for Palestine, for Gaza, the rhetoric is heating up. Today, during a long drive, I listened to some of the some of the United Nations, their daily speakers, and it was just full of the rhetoric pro-Palestine, anti-Israel. And, aside from the United States, not a lot of folks are really standing up for Israel. I really thought I could hear somebody say, now, wait a minute. And they're upset because of supposedly 16,000, and it may be true. I don't know. I don't think anybody really knows. 16,000 women and children and civilians, and that number is not quantified, have died at the hands of Israel, the IDF. Now, what nobody said during this was, well, now, wait a minute. It's not Gaza. It's not the people who live there, but Hamas. They slaughtered Israelis and Americans and other nationalities. They're supposed to just let that go? No, they're not supposed to just let that go. Israel has a right to defend itself. I wrote a piece the other day that collateral damage happens. It's not fun. It's not pretty. It's not sexy or exciting to talk about, but collateral damage happens. Now, should there be an effort to minimize the amount of public damage? Absolutely. Absolutely. Do I believe that Israel is doing everything they can to do that? I don't have anything pointing otherwise. I do know that there are over 300 some odd miles of underground tunnels that Hamas has dug and concrete in under the city for them to bunker and hunker down in, under schools, hospitals. I mean, we've seen pictures of this. We've seen videos of this. Some people have talked to us about being there with this. I don't have a reason to think that they haven't been very deliberate with their bombings and missiles and so forth, speaking of Israel. At the same time, you have to remember that the mainstream media has been not truthful with you, because as soon as the hospital was bombed or had a missile attack, they were all over that. How in the world could they do that? I had made the comment when I saw when daylight came over there that it hit the parking lot. It didn't hit the hospital. And then we find out not only did it hit the parking lot of the hospital, it was fired by themselves. But the mainstream media delivered an anti-Israel, anti-Semitic, divisive line that a lot of people still believe. So the blowback against Israel is hot right now. You've got Iranian proxies, as they call them, shooting at American ships and other flagged vessels. I think over 100 and some odd, 110, 114, I think I last heard, times our bases throughout Syria and Iraq, that area. They've shot at or they bombed or whatever. And we have done nothing. I'm not a warmonger, and I'm not saying we should go to war, but I am saying that the minute that they kill an American, I would not be held back. You don't do that. I would enforce embargoes against Iran to cripple their financial system. We have the means of doing that, but you've got to have a big, not only that, but I would also militarily take out these proxies. Okay. That would be the definitive voice for Iran to know that we've gotten rid of them. Guess who's next? We've crippled your economy. Guess what's coming next? I think that would work. And I don't agree with a lot of the folks we saw on TV last night, the presidential debate. But one thing Nikki Haley has always said, and I do agree with this, when you're dealing with people with thugs like Iran, like the mullahs, even China, for that matter, they understand strength. They understand that. They can speak that. Kim Jong-un, I still believe, he understands strength. And when there is weakness, all they understand is attack. I fully and solemnly believe that's how they think. If we show military strength, we show economic strength, we do what we say we're going to do, we be who we say we're going to be, they will back down. I do believe, matter of fact, my wife and I were talking about this earlier when I got home, talking about the show. I do, the talking heads have said, it's prime for a terrorist attack, et cetera. The bells and the whistles are going off. They are. With our southern border, that with Joe Biden and the Biden administration, one minute it's perfectly closed. The next minute, we've got a problem. The administration and the president's office can't get their stories together. The press secretary just says whatever's on the top of her head. The border is seeing numbers of people coming across that border that have never been recorded before. They're not all from Mexico or Honduras or Belize or whatever. There are nationalities from all across this globe that are coming across that border. I firmly, I believe there is the opportune time coming up for something to happen. I hope it doesn't. I hope I'm absolutely wrong and somebody says you were way off, but this is just my feeling. We have a Christian holiday coming up. We have a Jewish holiday coming up. What better time if you are an Islamic thug who believes in, the world should live under Sharia law. What better time? I mean, this is a perfect time. So Also, we're watching something on a new piece of software. I'm getting used to it, and I hope to bring it out to you next week to share it with you each and every week. And it's been some of the stuff that I've just been talking about. I have watched on this, and it's called Spyglass. And what we are watching, what that is flights, and I'm only interested in military across the world. You can see trails where they came from, where they're going, the type of aircraft, the country. I mean, it's very, very in depth. And there are a ton right now of I believe they're called 135s. I believe that's what it is, 135s. And I say a ton. Last time I checked, about, I don't know, what is it, 7:20? So about 25 minutes ago, there were 5 of these up across the globe that I could find. Those are nuke sniffers, the 135s. At the southern border, there were a ton of C-17s. Somebody's in those. You can see with Spyglass all over the world, the flights coming in and out of Egypt. Not so many coming into Tel Aviv, but coming into Egypt and an airport or a military site near the border to Israel and Gaza. Probably the most interesting, and I had heard some rumblings about it, didn't really see a lot of talk about it. I've watched the aircraft do some maneuvers, and you can, with this software, you can store it, so by whatever time period you put in there where planes came from and where they landed, and you can stack them. This software shows you by flight level where these planes are. It's really cool. Anyway, I'm keeping an eye on some flights that I'm seeing coming out of Moscow, coming out of St. Petersburg, coming out of some towns that I can't even pronounce the name, and flying to other parts of Russia that are on the border of the Baltic states, Latvia, Estonia, places like that. Not so much up towards Finland, but the Baltic states. I haven't seen that before. It just looks like a lot of large military planes. It's back and forth and back and forth. I don't know what's going on over there, but it is something worth keeping an eye on. Don't forget, if you want to put some information in the chat bar, whether you want to ask me or tonight's guest, feel free to do that, and we'll put it on the screen.
Locked and loaded.
Let's go.
Big Patriot Radio. Blues, news, country pop, and classic rock.
And later on, we're going to talk about the debate last night. I couldn't let a show go without talking about the debate. And what a, how do I want to put that? What a show that was. Another big time show. But first, I want to bring on our guest for tonight. He is running for mayor of the city of Beaufort. I'd like for you to welcome to the show Mr. Phil Cromer. Mr. Cromer, it's good to see you, sir. Can you hear me? I can't hear you, mate. You look like you're on mute.
Oh, okay. Am I good now?
There you go.
Okay.
There you go.
Appreciate it.
Welcome, sir. It's a pleasure to have you.
Well, it's a pleasure to be here.
All right. So we have a lot of folks over in Beaufort that listen and watch the show, specifically watch. We have more that watch than listen on the radio. So there's a lot of folks that I see on the ticker up here that are watching. And your race, and I believe is it the 12th? Is that the right, or the 13th?
It's 12th, December 12th.
Yeah. A lot of folks talking about that, sir. We had your opponent on several weeks ago. And of course, we wanted to have you on. So we're glad that you're here. I'm going to jump right into things. I want to be respectful of your time. Tell us about Phil Cromer and your background.
Well, I'm 73 years old. I'm a native of Charleston, South Carolina. I've been married for the past 40 years to the former Amelia Amar Beaufort. We have 2 married daughters and 4 grandchildren. I was a veteran. I went in enlisted in the Army on active duty. Then I went to the U.S. Army Reserves, and I finished my service there as a lieutenant colonel in the Medical Service Corps. Well, I'm a graduate of Carolina. I have a Bachelor of Arts degree. Majored in history, minored in political science. I also have a joint master's degree in public administration from the College of Charleston and the University of South Carolina. After that, I went to work in the private sector for a short period of time and then ended up in the public sector working for the Low Country Council of Governments. From there, I went to the town of Ridgeland as a town administrator. From there to Port Royal as town manager. And then in late 1990, went to work for the Municipal Association in Columbia as a risk manager, working with the cities and towns in our state, trying to reduce their loss exposures. I retired from that position in January of 2014, came back to Beaufort, decided to continue my civic duty and jumped in the race for council. Was fortunate to win. After my first term, I ran unopposed for a second term. And that ended this past year. And like my opponent, Mike and I, we both are believers in term limits. So I had planned to enjoy my retirement. When lo and behold, recent events that led to the mayor's resignation, at the urging of some people, I decided I'd get back in and continue to serve my community. So here I am.
Well, first of all, let me say thank you for your service. We appreciate that. And I'm assuming, and I used to live in Beaufort long ago, but I'm assuming, is it fair to say your wife, is that the Amar Drug Store folks?
That was her father.
That was her father. How about that?
Yeah.
How about that? That's awesome. 40 years. Well, congratulations.
Yeah.
That is fantastic.
Yeah.
You were on city council for, I guess that was 8 years total, right? You all have 4-year terms?
Correct. Yeah. 4-year term.
So in those 8 years, what were some of the accomplishments? Not necessarily that you did, but I mean,
right.
Looking at it as a team, what are some of the accomplishments that you had dealings in during that time?
Well, we had several. I think if you look at the affordable housing, I did chair the city's affordable housing task force. We've come up with 24 recommendations that we are having presented. We presented them to council, but they're being reviewed for the upcoming Beaufort code changes that are coming up. We want to make it a little bit easier, if we can, to put some type of affordable or attainable housing within our community. It's a big issue. But while we were on council, we took some land that the city owned that we had no use for, and we donated one piece of property on Mossy Oaks Road to Habitat for Humanity. They built 2 homes there. We also donated some land on the corner of North Street and Rebo Road, where we were working with the Beaufort Housing Authority, their nonprofit arm called the Low Country Housing and Redevelopment Corporation. And they built 2 houses, and they look just like houses. They blend in, they fit the Beaufort style, but they're each quadplexes, and they are affordable. They're less than $1,000 a month. I believe they're $800 or $900 a month. So those were some pretty significant things I thought we did. We also partnered, as you know, most of the municipalities, along with Beaufort County and Jasper County, started the Regional Housing Trust Fund.
Right.
That's basically gotten off the ground in January of this year. So we hope that will eventually bear some fruit in terms of affordable housing for our people, because the biggest issue to our city is our local employers are having a hard time retaining employees or even recruiting employees because they can't afford to live in our city. And it's kind of a shame when you have policemen and firemen that serve your community can't even live there.
That's right.
So that's one of the things. And we also did quite a bit, I would say, in the economic diversity, if you will, area. Mm-hmm. And this has done a lot of it. I'll give credit to the former mayor. He really spearheaded a lot of this. But we started up the Beaufort Digital Corridor, which is a technology incubator, and at 500 Carteret. We also started a landing pad that's basically a place where national and international companies can come, and they have some office space that they can have temporarily to see if they want to set up operations in our area. So that's a big plus. We also set up the South Coast Cybersecurity Center, along with USCB and the Technical College of the Low Country. And we hope that program will be like a cybersecurity pipeline where we can get some students interested in that. It's produces high-paying jobs, but they can get anything from a certificate all the way up to a bachelor's degree in that. And we're hoping that would help spin off maybe some businesses, either home businesses or businesses here in Beaufort. We stood up the Commerce Park, which the city bought many years ago. We made some improvements in there, and we've been working with the Beaufort County Economic Development Corporation, which was started up a few years ago. And they've been fairly successful in bringing us some businesses and jobs to our Commerce Park. So again, that's where we've done some work there. But we also, in terms of resiliency, as you know, we're in the Low Country, and these places like the flood, and we have these king tides and everything. So we started the stormwater projects. It started out in Mossy Oaks, where we were having a huge problem.
Big problem.
Big problem. We're very successful there. It went to Broad Street, and now we've got 3 more stormwater projects that are about ready to get underway. But we have a couple more to go. So this is, multi-million-dollar investment that we're going to have to be making in our community, but we have to do it because of the flooding. And as you know, if you've got a lot of flooding, people think it damages property. Yes, it does, but think about public safety. You can't get police, fire, anything can traverse flooded streets. So it's something we have to do for our community. But those are just some of the things we've done. One of the things that was personal for me is I helped, we did a search for Stewartstown. I don't know if you remember this. This was looking for what I call first Scottish colony in North America, well, actually in the United States, here in Beaufort. So
a lot of people don't know about that.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun for me. I mean, watching them do the archaeological dig, very interesting. And it's amazing the long history that we have here in Beaufort.
Oh, it's amazing. I think that would be a fun job, as long as you're finding something.
Exactly.
Otherwise, it's just plain in the dirt.
Exactly.
I'm curious with your, as a side note, with the upcoming stormwater projects, are those LCOG grants, or are you all doing, is there stormwater fees paying for that, or how is that being paid?
Yeah, stormwater fees, we charge a fee that's collected, but it's not enough money, as you know, because these are multi-million-dollar projects. So we have to get grant money wherever we can. We've got some money from the state resiliency group, several other areas. We have to try to cobble and find grant money wherever we possibly can, because we're not a wealthy city. We're not a big city. And that's what we'll have to do in order to get these things completed.
Right. Mr. Cromer, when you look at the city of Beaufort, you take a step back on your porch and look at the city. What is right about Beaufort?
Well, I think our quality of life is second to none. I mean, it's a beautiful community. It's a welcoming community. It's a great place to live, work, and play. We have a lot of history. We have a diversity of this history and this culture. We have just, I guess, our scale, our sense of place, all of that makes it just a wonderful community to live in. And,
in the same breath, while you're on the porch and you're looking out at amazing sights, sounds, smells.
Oh, yeah.
What's wrong about Beaufort?
Well, one thing, we're a small town, and I'll tell you one of the biggest problems that we face, it's actually several, but this is a big one for me. About 45% of our land in the corporate limits of Beaufort are non-taxable. If you look at government land and buildings, churches, schools and colleges, the hospital, nonprofits, and so forth, that's a big chunk of property that's off the tax books. So the tax burden falls back on the rest of us, and we're just a small town of 14,000. So that's going to be a huge problem to overcome, and we have to do that by expanding our tax base. So we've got to grow our city as best we can. Some other problems, we flood. as we mentioned about the stormwater. We've got to deal with those issues. We don't have any public transportation north of the Broad that's good enough like it is south of the Broad maybe. But we need to find a way of getting our workers who can't afford to live in town some transportation to work. I think that would help out the situation with our employers. We also, it's an idea is maybe having a trolley system that runs between Beaufort, Port Royal, and Ladies Island and on a regular basis that would prompt maybe residents and visitors alike to leave their cars parked and get on this trolley and get things done and relieve some of the traffic congestion we have, as well as the tightness, if you will, of parking that we have in the community.
Gotcha. You know, the interesting thing you mentioned that it's hard for people, a lot of people, a whole lot of people, to afford to live where they work. And you mentioned that for Beaufort, the town of Hilton Head is having the same exact problem on a different scale, but it's the same problem.
You're right.
It would be interesting to see, you know, if the mayor of both of those towns, and you probably include, you know, Bluffton, but to reach out with people like the mayor of Hardyville and Ridgeland through like the Southern Low Country council of governments.
Yeah.
Is there something as a group that can be done, not so much by the government, but maybe to feed, you know, the capitalist society to spur something? Has that ever? I'm not a trick question, but has that ever been talked about?
No, probably not enough, but I would agree with you. We need to get, this is not something public sector can solve by itself. And this problem transcends all boundaries. So we really need to look to the private sector, and maybe we can help out some way. It could be a public-private thing, but it really should be driven by the private sector, because these people are working for private sector jobs for the most part. And so it's incumbent upon those employers, you know, if they need employees, they should be getting on the bandwagon. And whether they subsidize their employees, you know, so they can afford to live in housing, or, you know, get some people who have an interest in developing these things. And you're correct. We need to get everybody together. It's not something that we can do by ourselves.
What do you see if you look in Phil Cromer's crystal ball as mayor? What do you see the city of Beaufort looking like in 5 years from now?
Well, I would hope that we still have the same sense of place, that we are still what I would call one of the best seaside towns or coastal towns in all of America, and one where we have a tax base that we can be physically sustainable, and one where we can grow, have enough job opportunity there to attract younger people, because, you know, in Beaufort, that's the missing middle, if you will, is the younger people. We need to get those people and try to get them back into Beaufort to make this place a great place for our children and grandchildren.
Absolutely. Along with everything you just talked about since we began, let's talk about redevelopment. Downtown Beaufort and all cities go through these growth cycles where they've got to redevelop themselves. They got to reimagine them. I know, talking with the last two mayors in Hilton Head, I mean, they're constantly going through redevelopment, and they actually fell behind the 8 ball. I don't see that in Mike Covert's view, which doesn't mean anything, but looking at Beaufort, I wouldn't say you've fallen behind, but what are your philosophies with redevelopment? Because that is becoming a big subject, both positively and negatively, for the city of Beaufort.
Well, I'm all in favor of redevelopment and infill, and my philosophy on this is we need to focus all of our development on our core urban and suburban areas. That way we don't have sprawl, which I think is bad, because then you've got to put in the infrastructure and all that. But if you concentrate in your core areas, you already have most of the infrastructure already there. So it makes sense to look at what can we do that's appropriate and fitting that will help us out. Now, we might have opportunities for affordable housing in some of that infill and redevelopment. we have an opportunity for more commercial. And as you know, commercial is what pays the bills more than
Absolutely.
residential. So
That's right.
yeah, there's tremendous opportunity, and I'm all in favor of it. Again, that it's appropriate because we want it. Beaufort has I guess, an aura about it that draws people here, obviously, and we'd like to maybe keep that same charm, that character, or whatever you want to call it, and do it the right way.
How do you see, and this is kind of going to dovetail on that, how do you envision a vibrant downtown and the redevelopment that has to happen, some that already has happened or is underway, working alongside in parallel with the residential areas? And I know there's some nicknames of it, but the residential areas of downtown, how do they work together?
They can work together, but I think part of the problem, we have some neighborhoods that are very close to what we call our entertainment district, and it can get a little noisy. And I think there's something about Beaufort that we really need to focus on too, is livability. And we want to make sure that it's a livable community and all that. But I think there's a way of working it out. And I think when people choose to live in a downtown area, they kind of know this comes with the territory.
Right.
But I grew up in Charleston, and I can tell you we made it work. It worked, and I think the same thing can happen in Beaufort.
I remember several years ago when I was on county council. It was unfortunate. We had there's some characters who did not play well between the county and the city of Beaufort. Characters on both sides,
Right?
And that was unfortunate. How do you see, moving forward that relationship? And I'll tell you, a lot of that was because of annexation down through Ladies Island, or that corridor right there.
Right.
And I don't know why, but some take it personally, like, because people don't understand that rooftops pay cost money and businesses actually pay the bills.
Right.
But anyway, back to the question, how do you see this working a little bit together? We have different faces pretty much on both sides. I don't know if you've had a chance to work with any of the characters. The cast is different. Is the problem still there?
I think it is right now. I think we both need to reach out to one another because, like I said, all these problems transcend boundaries. So we have to kind of work together, and I believe that things will get better. Regardless of who wins this election, we have to work together. But you're right, bringing up the thing about the annexation. I noticed that a lot of times the county council people, it seemed more like a power struggle. But when you peel it back, what it is, you're giving up. The only thing you're giving up is having to deliver services to these people. You're still getting the same amount of tax money. Right. That's what I don't see what the rub was, but it might have been a power thing. But
I think that's probably the biggest part of it.
Yeah. And I think we can work it out. I mean, we've got to, if we want to move our area forward. And the funny thing is, we have to do something because Beaufort's probably the wealthiest county in the state per capita, but it has one of the lowest wage rates. And that's a problem. We have to figure out a way we can make it work for everybody, because that's who we are representing, is everybody, all citizens, not just one group, or whatever, but everybody.
Anything else you'd like to add, Mr. Cromer?
No, just that I'm looking forward, and win or lose, I'll stay engaged, and I know my opponent will as well. So, and we like one another, so that's a good thing.
Yeah, that's helpful.
It is.
December 12th. If you're in the city of Beaufort, be sure to get out and vote. And thank you again, running for mayor, Phil Cromer. We appreciate. You're welcome here anytime, sir.
Well, thank you, Mike. I sure do appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Bye.
Your Rock Authority. Big Patriot Radio.
I wouldn't tell anybody about this.
It is 7:50, 10 minutes before the top of the hour. Last night, I appreciate Mr. Cromer being on here. I appreciate Mr. Sutton being on here. I don't know, it was a month ago or so. Beaufort City residents, you guys have two good candidates. It's and they like each other, so that's positive. You've got choice. You've got both choices. I think are good. Let's see what happens. Get out there and vote on the 12th, and please, City of Beaufort, do better than the state did on election day. A few weeks ago, 6%. 6% is what came out and voted. By the way, Corey, if you're watching this, you owe me an ounce of silver, bro. We made a bet that it would be over, I don't know, it was 15 or something. Anyway, moving forward, last night there was a debate. Some people will say to me, man, why do you watch that? And because it's entertainment. And it really is. I mean, it really is entertaining. And it's something that you can agree with some things and not agree with others. It's entertainment. That's it. And some of them had good things to say. Okay. For anybody that's I only will vote. That's short-sighted. Listen to it all. There you go, Ivy. Hey, it's good to hear from you as well. Thanks to your mom and dad for getting out there and voting. They're going to add to that 6% and knock it out of the park. So anyway, the overall winner, for the I don't know, is this the fourth, I guess, or fifth or whatever, fourth? Again, Donald Trump. He was the overall winner. Is what it is. As far as those who were on the stage, Chris Christie, I just cannot stand to listen to the guy. When he was talking about he is okay with kindergartner getting sex change surgery and having the choice for that. I completely disagree with that. There's one thing to have too much government intervention. There's another thing to be harming children. And that, even thinking of that is weird, and it's odd, and it's strange, and it's inhuman. So with that alone, I couldn't vote for him if, I just couldn't. I couldn't do it. But I'll give him this. And he even answered. He said this as well. He was the only one up there that answered the questions. If you think about what the others said at different times, he actually did answer the questions. Some of his answers were asinine. One or two were somewhat on point. But at least he answered them. Okay. The other three at different times didn't answer the question. Nikki Haley. I mean, she's been strong. Tom Davis and I were talking about her weeks ago. She's been real strong. I mean, her numbers have turned around. Last night, what happened? Who was that? That wasn't Nikki Haley, because she seemed weak, no energy, feeble, very, very solemn and quiet. Total turnoff for this kind of job. In that way, she handled it last night. Yes, she doesn't want to get into a pissing match with Vivek Ramaswamy. I get it, and she answered one of the times, no, I don't have anything to say. It's not worth it. Great answer, but her overall body language, her answers weren't concise. Hey, you may think they were fantastic, and that's great. This is my opinion. Vivek, whatever, Ramaswamy, and DeSantis, I'll have to say their campaigns instructed them well, because they came out of the gate and they literally crushed Nikki Haley. Maybe that's what drove her into, she should have known that was happening. Her campaign, and let me tell you, this is how this works. These campaigns, they practice this every single day. They may be in Iowa and New Hampshire and then down to Oklahoma, but that team travels and they practice this every single day. We did on a much lower scale when I was running against Nancy Mace and Kathy, a much lower scale. But on that level, it's practiced over and over. And they came out and they crushed her. And her team should have known that was coming. That's what they have to do because she was picking up steam. And maybe she, I don't know, maybe she couldn't handle it. I really don't know. Ramaswamy, I think a majority of people are getting tired of some of the shit talking he's doing. Holding up the sign was cute, but at the same time, I think it was hokey and it was sophomoric. Nikki equals corruption. It very well may be, but I don't think that was the delivery. I know what he's trying to do. He's trying to be Trump version 2. That will only work so far until you have to go up against Trump version 1. And then, he's been licking Donald Trump's soles of his shoes ever since this started. You can't disagree with that. And if you can, you need to look back. Ramaswamy is in love with Donald Trump. How Ramaswamy is doing this, he needs to separate himself from Donald Trump. He separated himself from the pack. The entrepreneur who doesn't know, he doesn't have any foreign policy, experience except with business, which I'm not knocking that. Run businesses, started businesses. That's absolutely needed. That's how I got into this. But, the attacking DeSantis, I guess it was DeSantis and Haley, about name 3 provinces in, what did he say? In Ukraine that are under attack or something like that by Russia. What point is that? And now a little bit later, Nikki, kind of quietly she named 3 of them. DeSantis never did. But what's that got to do with anything? I didn't get it. I thought that was, I just didn't like it. It rubbed me the wrong way. DeSantis may have had his best performance last night. That may have been his best one, in my view. It was still choreographed. And if anybody if somebody said who's spending the most time with stage prep, it's Ron DeSantis. And he's listening because it is so choreographed that every time, let me tell you folks, every time they go on stage and I see that smirk smile, that is so choreographed, it drives me nuts. The dude is bright. He's smart. But it is so choreographed and it shows. It so shows. The answers he gives, I think if he sat and thought about it, he would answer them differently. He's answering them from being choreographed. He knows what to say. It's like looking at you, but I know what to say because they've beat it into me. This is what I say. Chris Christie didn't choreograph anything. And again, I can't stand the guy, but at least he was honest and answered the questions. Ron, just be you. Just be you. There's a reason somewhere. There's a reason why Floridians love you. They overwhelmingly love you in Florida. You've done some great things in Florida. You've led some things in Florida that are fantastic. Just do that on this stage. You don't need to impress anybody. Your record speaks for something. You don't need to impress us with choreographed answers. Just be you. Just be you, Ron. Great service in the military. Everybody appreciates that. He's the only one who's been in the military. Yes, Chris Christie said while, Vivek was at Harvard, licking the souls of the liberal donors there. He was fighting against, the September 11th, situation. That was classical, very smart. But DeSantis, you don't need to impress anybody. You've done it. Some things you've done are questionable, as is to be expected. But overall, Floridians love DeSantis. Why they do? I don't live in Florida. There are two people watching tonight from Florida. Why do you love Ron DeSantis in Florida? Whatever you're doing, Ron, just do it on this stage. You don't need to impress anybody. However, the overall big winner, and I'd like to hear what you think about this, the overall big winner in this, in my opinion, is News Nation Network. I guess that's what that's called, News Nation Network. This is the way I understand it, a fledgling cable company trying to, compete with the big brothers and sisters from a neighbor's cousin's redheaded stepchild, Fox, CBS, CNN, ABC, NBC. They're fledgling. They're a little bit bigger than RSBN, but I don't know if they're as big as Newsmax. Maybe they're equal to. Anyway, News Nation, the News Nation group, the cast, the whatever, outperformed the other cable companies, I guess we'll call it, by leaps and bounds. Leaps and bounds. The set, it was fine. I think Fox or PBS, I don't know, somebody had a set that was, wow. A little too elaborate, maybe. This one wasn't really too elaborate. It served a purpose and it looked great. The three moderators, they did a good job at keeping control. Everywhere else, they did a horrible job. Sean Hannity on the Ron DeSantis and Gavin Newsom debate, which was a joke. Sean Hannity did terrible. He had zero control. Those three ladies last night did a good job. Now, did they have supreme control? No, there was some, when you got somebody like Ramaswamy who just doesn't know how to shut the hell up, it will carry on. But those ladies, they got loud. You are done, sir. You are done. There were moments where I thought it would go off the rails. I really did. But it didn't. And, I thought I saw something today or heard something on the way back that Megyn Kelly, as a matter of fact, let me look this up. I think she is actually moving, if what I understand. No, she's not moving. She evidently, New York Times, Axios, New York Post, Washington paper, all of them are saying what a great job. She's returning to the spotlight. She needs to get her hair cut, but she's returning to the spotlight. So, and she led the thing and she did a great job. So kudos to her. I thought they all did a great job. So take a quick check. It is 8:00 to the top of the hour. That is going to be it. That is it for this week. But next week we are going to be talking about the teacher in Beaufort County Public Schools, or teacher's aide, whatever her title was, that was arrested a few weeks ago for some kind of sexual misconduct or something like that. Her story that we are working on is getting stranger and weird, really weird, more weird day by day when stuff is coming out. We'll have that ready for you next week. We're also going to have some updates on new corruption allegations. Oh my God, in Beaufort County against county council, at least one county council person. Some new corruption allegations that are out there. There are some others involved in this that have now drawn the ire of the statewide grand jury. So when you start drawing the ire of the statewide grand jury, the cheese is starting to smell bad. So there's some other stories we're working on. See what gets taken. We're going to talk about the final review committee took place. They actually removed one book from the shelves, and they put all the rest of them they put back. That's 5 books that have gotten removed of the 97 that Ivy and I, the 2 complainants that we put forward. 97 books. They did take 5 and put them away. So that is a win. But we've got more news to share about that with a new state regulation that has been sent to the South Carolina House of Representatives. They have the 120-day rule, or this will go directly into the state register, the South Carolina Register. We'll tell you about that. That will make changes. It will unwind everything that the Beaufort County School Board, in the 8 of them that are inept, everything they've done, this will unwind it. But wait, there's more. We're also going to talk to you next week about legislation that has been written. I was fortunate enough to have a little hand in that, enjoy doing that kind of stuff. But legislation that's going to be coming forward in the next session, which I guess is like right at 30 days away, something like that. Actually, 32 days, if I remember right, before the session starts. This legislation will not only reinforce this regulation that the South Carolina Department of Education came up with, it will also strengthen it. And there are criminal penalties for the supplying of lewd and vulgar materials that have been found pornographic and not acceptable. I can tell you that the Utah law, the Utah Code of Laws, or whatever they call it, has been heavily scrutinized and used, as well as has Tennessee. Tennessee, some of their laws, the wording was used. So all that and more is going to be coming next week. Right here on Big Patriot Radio, the House of Cards, 7 o'clock, right here on social media and bigpatriotradio.com. Good night, America.
Never late.